So, Jen, thank you again for agreeing to sit and talk to me a little bit about the book Turning Tables and our time together. And, I'm forever indebted because business books a lot of times just end. And when we met, I didn't have the ending. But you remember we were sitting at the restaurant and I said, oh my gosh, Jen, I wrote it down. I told you, I've got the ending now. So have you ever been the ending of a book before?
Not that I know of.
You were a huge part, and it's really hard to isolate which section of the book you're in because actually you're kind of intermingled through it. But one of the things, I know we have two things in common. We both went to JMU and we were both working as servers in high school and college. When you think back to those days, what recollections and memories do you have of those early days working as a high school kid or a college kid?
As a high school kid, I remember it being really hard work. My first job was at a Golden Corral, and I worked my way up to waitress. And, that was the gold standard sort of job we were all working towards because you could make the most money with tips. But it was really hard work. It would take a couple of hours of cleanup after the restaurant closed. And I would just be on my feet for 6 hours, 7 hours at a time. And it was great. I loved it. I loved the sort of energy rush that you get when you're going from table to table and just kind of on automatic pilot sometimes, and just responding to whatever comes your way. But I remember it being really, really hard physically. When I was in college, I graduated into, I would say, not easier jobs, but maybe just a little bit cushier in the sense that I was working in restaurants where the pace maybe wasn't quite as intense and the turnover of tables wasn't quite as fast.
So early on you learned about making money, if you will, through volume.
Yes.
And then later on you learned about how you can have a little less volume but have a little bit higher turnaround, right?
Absolutely.
You worked at a French restaurant.
I did. First in college, I worked at an Italian restaurant, and then that kind of gave me the opportunity to get this job in Fredericksburg, Virginia. It was a French restaurant called La Petite Auberge, and I did learn a lot about fine dining there.
And one of the things that happens is you learn some lessons in those early years that you use throughout your professional career. But then not that long ago, I think right after the pandemic, you got back into the food service business. Tell everybody about where that was and what you did.
So I did end up running a restaurant on a bridgeless island in Maine.
Who hasn't done that?
I know. It's the island is 8 miles off the coast of MDI, Mount Desert Isle, and you can only get there by ferry. It's about a 45-minute ferry ride. And there's nothing on the island except for homes and a little bitty restaurant. The island has about 10 people year-round, lobster fishermen, and then the population when the fishing season is really going, and also the tourist season, the population rises to about 50 or 60 people. So there's a little restaurant there called Lunt's Dockside Deli. It's a restaurant owned by the Lunt family. We became friends with the son who is 10th generation on that island.
10th generation?
10th generation on the island.
And wait, for people that are at home, they might want to Google, what's the name of the town that's in the island?
Well, the island is called Frenchboro.
Frenchboro.
Or Outer Long Island is kind of the official name, and
okay.
The town of Frenchboro.
Okay. You have to go there on purpose.
You absolutely do, unless you're a sailboater. And a lot of the traffic at this restaurant are people on their sailboats.
And I remember you telling me not only were you running the restaurant, but you were also the harbor master.
I was
as
the
well,
harbor
right?
master.
So talking about multitasking, right?
Absolutely.
This is awesome.
People would call as we're trying to make the food in the kitchen and get it out to people, and also want to know if they could get a mooring. And I never understood the mooring situation, which moorings were available, which weren't. It was, that was a little bit chaotic. But the wife of this 10th generation son of the island was looking for somebody to run the restaurant. And this was the second summer of the COVID pandemic. So by this point, there was just kind of a lot of stir craziness that had built up inside of me. And I'm also a pastor and a therapist. I had been working in a church for the first year of the pandemic. And I had had this idea before the pandemic started of starting a dinner church. Be some version of church, but you're around a dinner table, and there would be a lot more of a restaurant sort of element to it. And so when this opportunity came up, really because of the friendship and relationship that I had with this couple, and the opportunity came up to run the restaurant, I thought, well, I can try to do the thing that I've always said I wanted to do, but also didn't really want to do. I didn't want the full commitment of owning a restaurant, but I could run a restaurant for a summer. This summer is the restaurant is only open in the summer. So it seemed like an opportunity that was just kind of, why would I say no to this? And it was a huge leap, huge leap.
You put yourself out there to do that. And one of the things that is woven throughout your story and is in the book for sure is the value of teamwork. Because even though it wasn't the biggest restaurant in the world, there's no way one person could do all the things that needed to get done. So talk about once and the teamwork lessons that you learned there.
Well, you're right. I mean, at this little restaurant, you've got to cook and you've got to serve and you've got to clean up. And remember, I told you that the population in the summer swells to about 50 or 60 people on the island. A lot of people are fishing, they're lobster fishermen, and then the other people on the island are retired and they're not necessarily looking to work. So there's a real shortage of labor on the island, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to find that many people to work there.
So you did what anybody in that situation would do, called your friends and neighbors and family.
Absolutely. I just started talking to my friends about this and my family. And if anybody had a sort of spark in their eye as I was talking about it, I would say, if you want to come up and you want to kind of help me out, you're more than welcome. And I ended up having a consistent stream of friends and family come up either for a couple of days at a time, or one friend stayed for 2 weeks. My immediate family, my husband, my children, my mother, who at the time was 79, they all came up and helped me open the restaurant. And I will say that I could not have opened that restaurant without my 79-year-old mother taking charge. Imagine a kitchen on an island that is, the kitchen is over the ocean. Like the sink
You look down?
hole goes down into the ocean. Imagine that. That is vacant and uninhabited. It's not like, what do you call that, like multi-season. It's just.
And it had been for a year or so, right?
It had been, yes. So you can just imagine what state the kitchen would be in when nobody's been in it for that long. And again, when it's on this remote island. So my mom was huge, hugely important in getting things started. She left. My husband stayed on and manned the grill for a little bit. Then he left because he had to get back home to work. And then I just had, like I said, a steady stream of friends and family come and take their turn. And every couple of days, I would have to teach a new crew. We made everything from scratch, whether it was lobster rolls or it was the desserts or the salads, or, I mean, like everything was made by scratch, the pizza dough, all of it. So I would, and we served a lot of different things.
I did notice that there were a lot of menu items that people got to choose from.
Many menu items. Well, there was like this clash because there were certain things that the sailboating community was coming for, and they wanted the lobster dinners, they wanted the lobster rolls, maybe some chowder, something like that. But the local island people really wanted like hamburgers and subs and maybe pizzas. So we really kind of had to have everything and be ready to serve all.
Because you don't know when they're coming, necessarily.
No idea when they were coming. I was also told we needed to be open every day because if we weren't open every day, there wouldn't be consistency. So they were really long days. So you
had to lean on other people, obviously.
Absolutely. I've never felt so grateful for friends showing up in the hour of need. In fact, it was, so I've had 3 children, and I know what it's like to have a baby and have people bring you dinner, and that's amazing and wonderful. But I was so in over my head with this restaurant. When friends showed up to work in it, I knew what I was asking of them even before they knew what they were saying.
So you knew what was coming, and you're feeling a little guilty because you know what. Then they're like, "Hey, I'm here."
And actually, they all loved it. They all loved it.
For a week or two.
For a week or two,
That's
or
right.
3 days.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that, and you did that repeatedly over and over again. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Jen, you have spent your adult life being trained, theologically trained, and also with a master's as a therapist, as a reverend. For you, it's about looking out for other people. Did the lessons that you learned that summer at Luntz refresh that perspective or teach you new things about serving other people?
Honestly, the lessons I learned that summer were about people helping me. They weren't so much about me serving others. I did say yes to something that was really big, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I did feel, I said yes to something that had me in over my head. And I think the biggest thing that I learned was that when you say yes to something and you're in over your head, it's other people that are going to come and help you out of it. There was no way, I couldn't do it by myself. It was too big. So the gift of community, the gift of friends, the gift of also just like beauty and adventure. I mean, the island is stunning. And no matter how hard we were working, there were windows we could look
still look outside.
And we just saw this gorgeous ocean, sailboats, evergreen trees. I mean, it's really stunning. And every time I had to leave the little restaurant to walk down the dock to pull the lobster out of the water, because the lobster was coming, we kept the lobster in the ocean.
I mean, literally fresh caught.
Literally. Right? I thought, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And come on, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever done too.
So it had to have been a little bittersweet during the time, and then when you left both, like what a great sense of accomplishment, and what a relief that it's a little bit in the rearview mirror, right?
I left it all on the field there. I couldn't have done it longer, at least not the first pass. Now, a couple years later, I could maybe say, I'd do it a little differently, and I've learned some things, and maybe I'd give it another go, but I think my family would all say, no way.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Again, through your career, you really have made it about other people. Talk for a moment about how leaders can put other people first and still, accomplish what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think for me, what's most important is if I focus on like serving a person, that person at some point is probably going to be difficult to serve, right? Like inevitably there will be disappointment on either side or fear of disappointment on either side that can get in the way. I think what has been most helpful to me is finding a couple of ideas that I'm going to serve, and the people fit under that idea, right? So, theologically speaking, I believe that God is love, and that we are all made in God's image of love, right? So that idea, that bigger idea of being made in the image of love, and everybody is made in the image of love and deserving of love, and that's the idea that I can lean into, right? I think we talked about this, I don't remember if it made it into the book, but way back when I worked in that Golden Corral as a 17-year-old, one of the ideas that we were sort of indoctrinated with was the customer is always right. And it can be really hard to actually believe that the customer is right in the moment if you think, wait a second, your experience and mine aren't the same. But that idea, the customer is always right, is a really helpful idea when it's aligned with the purpose that you're trying to achieve. So, that for me is the key. It's like identifying the ideas that I'm willing to serve that enable me then to take care of others, love others, lean into compassion and empathy.
So the goal isn't necessarily serving others. The goal is to put forward that work you're trying to do, but in the process of doing that, you do end up serving others.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to live in a world where we're all like on the same page and know that love is the strongest force, right? So, so that's the idea I want to lean into, and by leaning into it, then maybe I become part of that happening. Does that make sense?
It does. And to give you a chance to pull it all together, so fast forward past the Golden Corral days and go to the JMU Italian restaurant days or the Fredericksburg French restaurant days. If you now, sitting where you are today, could tell yourself back then something that would help you navigate life, can you think of what advice you might give your college waitress self?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, it's, any decision made out of fear is not going to be a good one. Any decision that enables me to lean into my bigger self, to take a risk even and stretch, that's always going to be the better path. So I think what I would say to that young woman is, don't be afraid to take the risks. Lean into whatever invitation there is there to become bigger, and trust that you will be held. You'll be held by forces bigger than you. You'll be held by a community as well, of people. But
a lot like you were held at Luntz out on the island in Frenchboro, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's good advice. And again, I've shared it with you. I started out the conversation about the fact that I'm indebted to the ending that you gave me, because books in this ilk kind of hard to end. How do you end it? And I will remember sitting at the booth at Crystal Spring Grocery, and you said, I just do what's next. And I think about what can I do that's next. And I think you were talking about at Luntz, but you were also talking about helping people when you're in a one-on-one therapy session, or when you're in a counseling session, or when you're leading a church, about helping that person to see maybe not what needs to get done way down the road, but what do you need to do next? You've done that also throughout your life. So thanks again for kind of helping us pull it all together.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, Bruce.